Hey everybody, it's Gamedex, and welcome to my very first Sealed of Theros Beyond Death. Sealed, of course, is the format where we're going to open 6 14-card packs of the set and build a 40-card deck out of those and basic lands. So let's get started with it. This will be my very first video of a Theros Beyond Death Sealed, but I have done a couple in the preview event beforehand. So let's just crack these packs open and see if we get any sweet rares here to build around. So, the first thing you want to do when you're building a sealed deck, if you're a newer player, this is a really easy strategy to go on, is kind of how Arena does it. Check out your rares first, because if you have some really good bombs, you're going to want to check out those colors first and really hope that you have enough stuff at common and uncommon to flesh out a deck with your best rares in it. Now, sometimes your sealed pool isn't going to go with those. Sometimes you're going to get, like, an incredible mythic rare in a certain color and then check your commons and uncommons and only have, like, 5 and they're all bad. That can happen, but this is still the best and simplest way to start out thinking what you want to do. So right here, Kiora Best's the Sea God, probably the literal best card in the set for limited, so that is something I'm going to want to look at first, is just checking out my blue, because this card is insane. So it's a 7-mana enchantment. When you play it, you create an 8/8 with hexproof. That's already really difficult to beat. Then the second part, it's going to tap all of your opponent's non-land permanents. So that's going to be all of their creatures, anything else as well, but most importantly all of their creatures, so that nothing is able to block your giant 8/8 Kraken, and it keeps them tapped for another turn, and then if you make it to the third mode and you haven't won already, you also get to just steal their best permanent permanently. So this card is absolutely bonkers. It's also, because it is a 7-mana card and it is so powerful, even if we don't have great stuff in blue, this is something we might want to think about splashing. It does require 2 blue to cast it, but because it costs so much mana, we could probably have like 4 or 5 blue sources, because this is a kind of card that we could just play late game as something to end the game. Then we've got a rare land. This is nothing special, really. This is the kind of thing that you would really expect in the uncommon slot if it weren't so good for standard. We've got a Gravebreaker Lamia. It's a 5-mana 4/4 lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, search the library for a card, put it into your graveyard, then shuffle your library, and spells you cast from the graveyard cost 1 less to cast. So this is an interesting build around. If we have a lot of escape cards, this could be pretty good. Just search for a really good escape card. It's now going to be cheaper to escape, and then just cast it afterwards. So pretty high potential here. But another card, we really need to see what else we have to see if this will be any good. We've got Tectonic Giant, which is definitely going to be very good. It's a 4-mana 3/4 whenever it becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, or whenever it attacks, you get to deal 3 to each opponent, or exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them, and you can cast that turn until the end. You can cast that card until the end of your next turn. So this is really good. If you need more cards in hand, you can use this to draw your best card out of the top 2 every time it attacks, or whenever your opponent tries to kill it. And if not, this just swings for 6 damage as a 4-cost creature every time it attacks, which is pretty powerful, especially with that nice 4 toughness to help it get in there. We've got Dryad of the Elysian Grove. This goes really well with Kiora Best's the Sea God, just because it's going to let us play 2 lands per turn, so we get to play an additional land on each of our turns, and all of our lands are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So even if maybe our blue is in general pretty weak, and Kiora Best's the Sea God is the only blue card we really want to play, if our green's good, Dryad of the Elysian Grove will make it really easy to splash Kiora of the Sea God, because that's one fantastic mana-fixing card, as well as ramping us up to cast it early. So preferably, we've got like really good stuff in green and blue, and maybe we can go for a green-blue ramp deck. That way we can consistently cast Cure Best to Sea God whenever we draw it, but even if not, Dryad is a fantastic card by itself. And our final card is Ephemia, the Cacophony. It is a 2-mana 2/1 legendary enchantment creature harpy. It's got flying, and at the beginning of your end step, you can exile an enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Another kind of build-around card. We're definitely going to want a lot of enchantments in our deck. That happens pretty often in Theros. I don't think that'll be a huge problem. But we're also going to want some self-mill to get enchantments into our graveyard as soon as possible, or just enchantments with good sacrifice effects. And this card is definitely going to go into our deck if we're playing black regardless, so there's really not a high cost in running this in Limited, but there's very high reward. If you just get like one zombie out of this thing, you just spent 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer and a 2/2 zombie, which is really, really powerful. Alright, so let's go ahead and check out the commons and uncommons we have in each color and see what we have fleshed out here. So, because we don't have any rares in white, white's going to have to be pretty powerful in terms of commons and uncommons for us to want to play that. Maybe we could even just use it as a support color. So what do we have here? We do have Banishing Light, one of the best removal cards in the set. 3 mana, you can exile anything until they get rid of your Banishing Light. Random little creature, random little pump spell, sort of a removal spell. Few things that make aura decks good. And then some very basic stuff near the end here. Hoplite can be really good if you're a heavy white deck, but we don't have much in terms of white to make us want to go a Devotion high white deck. So I think Banishing Light is really the best thing we have going for us in white. Not a whole lot else. Dawn of Angel could be okay if we had a bunch of auras, but we actually don't have a single aura in white, which is really awkward, as we have 3 Transcendent Envoy, 1 Dawn of Angel. Both of these cards care a lot about having auras. Heliod's Pilgrim, which doesn't do anything if we don't have an aura to search for. So our white definitely seems like not very synergistic, doesn't even have any really good bombs to win the game with. So if we were to end up playing white, the only real reason that I could see us ending up in white is if we have a different color that's pretty powerful and also happens to have a lot of auras in it. So maybe our red is like our strongest color and there's a bunch of red auras in there, then maybe white would be the best support color for it, just because we do have good aura support. But I don't think that's particularly likely. Let's see what we've got in blue here. We obviously know that we have our best card in our sealed pool in blue, so we're hoping that we have some good stuff to fill it up with. Stern Dismissals I've definitely liked in the preview event. It can return a creature or enchantment an opponent controls to its owner's hand, so it's just an unsummon for one of their creatures. If that creature had a bunch of auras on it, you get to just get rid of all those auras. And there is a decent amount of enchantment-based removal in this set that you can also get rid of. So, like if they've put Banishing Light on the field and exiled one of your important permanents, you can get it back until they cast Banishing Light again, of course, by bouncing their Banishing Light at instant speed. That can really surprise them out of nowhere and be a pretty powerful play. So I do like these Stern Dismissals a lot. Eidolon Philosophy is okay, like filler. Just some decent filler stuff. Seaguard is like very filler, but we would put it in. Shoal Kraken I have liked a whole lot as well. There are a lot of enchantments in the set. Obviously, that is the big build around, but there's also just tons and tons of enchantment creatures. Stuff that you might have just been putting in your deck anyway, that when you look at it at second glance, you're like, oh, that's an enchantment creature, so that'll trigger my Constellation. You know, stuff like your Naiad of Hidden Coves, or your Transcendent Envoys and stuff like that. You're like, oh, these are enchantment creatures. So Constellation is pretty easy to trigger at least a few times after you've got the Shoal Kraken out. And yeah, even just drawing like 2 and discarding 2 off this is fantastic already. But you really want to draw like at least 1, or it's just like a decent blocker. So this is kind of what we've got in blue. Unfortunately, nothing else particularly powerful in blue. No removal. I would say the best stuff that we have in blue, the premium cards we have in blue, are really just these two. These two are both pretty strong reasons to play blue. When combined, Shoal Kraken by itself isn't a reason to play blue, but it's really nice to have in your blue deck. So yeah, we also have Sea God Scorn. That's really good in an aggressive deck. So depending on our second color that we pair up with blue, that might see play in here. But in general, in Sealed, aggressive strategies aren't the greatest because aggressive strategies require you to have a very consistent curve, lots of cheap cards, lots of good cheap tricks and removal spells and stuff like that, and it's very hard to assemble that kind of thing in Sealed because it is purely random. It is a lot better to do that in Draft, just because aggro just tends to be a more synergy-based gameplay style than just your slower, more dirtily decks that are just trying to reach their bombs like QR Best the Sea God, or just trying to outvalue your opponent over a long game. So let's see what we have in black here. Cling to Dust doesn't seem fantastic. It can stop our opponent's escape stuff, and it is recastable, so that's okay. Grim Physicians, whatever. Hateful Eidolon, if we have a lot of auras, can draw us a lot of cards whenever our stuff dies, but once again, looks like a little bit of an awkward sealed pool here, because there is that card right there that cares about auras, but we've got one aura in black. Yeah, so yet another card there that we would need a secondary color with a lot of auras to do a lot of good stuff with that. So we do have Euphemia, who's very cool and has a lot of potential. A couple of these Farrakha's Libation that could be good in the right matchup. Drag to the Underworld is just always going to be fantastic. Even if you don't have any devotion to black, this is a fine card to spend 4 mana for at instant speed. Final Death would definitely go in as well as Gravebreaker, Lamia. Grey Merchant, we'd ideally want more black permanents than we have right now, because we only have one. Let's see, we have 2 black permanents, so it's not often we're going to be doing this for a lot of devotion, but yeah, I think ideally we'd want this to drain at least like 4 life. But by itself, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about the Enemy of Enlightenment. I think this is probably... Oops, we're probably not playing Hateful Eidolon. There we go. These are probably the black cards we'd play. So black actually doesn't seem the worst in the world. It does not have a lot of creatures, but we do have a few pretty decent removal spells, as well as a rare with potential to be pretty powerful. Problem is, again, we would need a support color for this because our black doesn't have any great ways to get enchantments into our graveyard early. Unless we just put in Hateful Eidolon just to have a 1-mana enchantment to try to die as soon as possible. So black seems alright. I am hoping that red is going to be great because at first glance, red's looking pretty good. So we have Omen of the Forge, which is a nice early removal spell. 2 mana, you can play it at instant speed, deal 2 damage to any target, and then you can just scry later with it. Aureate of Mountain's Blaze is a fine filler card, especially in Sealed where the games are longer, because once you get into the late game and both players have a board that's just hard to attack each other with, you get to start discarding all of your lands that you draw, filtering them into hopefully better cards. Thrill of Possibility is great card draw. Fateful End, another nice early removal spell. Iroa's Blessing is a fantastic card. 4 mana to do 4 damage to target creature, planeswalker, and opponent controls is just great, and it also happens to be an enchantment that gives a little bit of a buff to one of your creatures as well. Obviously, the Tectonic Giant is great. We can definitely play the Stampede Rider just to fill out our cards if we do end up playing red. And I think out of all the colors so far, red looks, at least for me personally, the most cohesive. You know, like, all of these cards definitely look like they fit together in a deck versus just being like a pile of, like, or black definitely looked like a pile of, like, some high cost stuff. Pretty similar with the blue, and then the white was just all over the place. So we could just basically run almost all the red. And yeah, that definitely does not feel bad at all. Let's check out what we got in green. Green's also looking pretty exciting at the start here. Ooh, but it looks like not a lot at the higher end. Double Elysian Caryatid can be really good. Helps us ramp into some stuff. Wow, we only got one multicolored card. That's kind of crazy. Test and Skirmishers, kind of whatever. 2 mana, 2/1. If you're running a lot of enchantments, it can pretty frequently attack as a 3/2. But even that's not insanely exciting. Wolfbriar's Blessing, definitely good. One of the few green removal spells. This one lets the enchanted creature fight up to one creature you don't control when you cast this enchantment. Dryad definitely going in. Hyrax Tower Scout is a very good filler card. 3 mana, 3/3 with a little bit of upside. Omen of the Hunt is another ramp card. Renata seems just great in any deck. 4 mana for a 2/3 at the very least. That puts a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. And in green, all of the cards that we have so far are green permanents, which means they will all add to our devotion, of course, until we sacrifice them or they die or something. But Renata seems pretty great. And then Forerunner, a decent top end to a curve there, to give all our creatures trample and just be like a 5/3 by itself. We do have triple Altar of the Pantheon as well, so we could end up being like green-red and just use Omen of the Hunt to search up an island most of the time, have triple Altar of the Pantheon and Dryad of the Elysian Grove, just to splash in Kiora Bests the Sea God. Like, that could be a definite possibility here. But let's see what this deck looks like in green-blue first, because that would be a deck we could play without having to splash anything. We could just run 2 colors and stay less risky with our mana base here. So I'm not a huge fan of what's going on here. I am having to put in some cards that I'm not the biggest fan of to make it there. What does this do? Entrancing Lyre. X mana, tap target creature with power X or less. It doesn't untap as long as Entrancing Lyre remains tapped, and you can keep this tapped if you want. That seems okay. Probably throw that, especially if I'm going to be blue-green, I'll throw that in there, as well as the Familiar. And then I can start taking out some of those cards I wasn't too excited about. You know, now that I think of it, this does not look that bad at all. Yeah, this really doesn't look bad at all. I'm very interested in this. Maybe not Sea God Scorn, but definitely not hyper aggressive. This is just not great in a slower deck. But it's probably better than whatever else we'd put in. We just like put in one of the things that gives +1 in trample, or put in a turtle, or put in one of the ramp things. Yeah, I think it's definitely more interesting than any of those cards. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as the green-blue deck. Give it its card sleeve. We'll do an egg. Change the picture to what we want it to be. Can we make the picture Kiora Bests the Sea God? We can. It just does a very small part of it. Well, that would be that would be the key of the deck right there. So what I'm going to do is save the deck as is and then go in and edit and see what the deck would look like as green-red just splashing Cure Best's the Sea God. And if we decide that that deck looks worse, we can just exit our deck build without saving it. And if we think that it looks better, we'll save that and run with it. Alright, I am back, and this is what the green-red splashing Cure Best's the Sea God build looks like. I think this build looks a little more interesting to me. I don't know if it's actually better, but I'm going to go ahead and start out with this deck, and if it does pretty poorly, we can always swap back into just green-blue, and yeah, do things nice and fair that way. So we only have one island in here, and the reason is that is an island we can pick up off of Omen of the Hunt. We have 4 other blue sources, actually 6 other blue sources, thanks to Dryad of the Elysian Grove, 3 copies of Altar of the Pantheon, and 2 Elysian Caryatid. So that's what makes me think that it's actually not that big of a downside to just play green-red and splash in Cure Best the Sea God, is because we just have so many cards that can just incidentally tap for blue as well as tap for whatever colors we actually need most of the time. And our blue didn't seem super insane, and our red did seem pretty powerful. I guess the one thing we didn't really try would be red-blue. So that is something else we can consider as well if this deck ends up going pretty poorly. But I'm going to go ahead and make the final decision here. We're going to go with the red-blue-green deck. This one definitely seems like the most fun build and the one with the most powerful cards, because if we're just red-blue or just green-blue, then in both of those builds we're missing out on some powerful cards. If we're just red-blue, we don't get to play our Dryad, which is potentially very good. And if we're playing just green-blue, we don't get to play our Tectonic Giant, as well as a decent amount of early removal spells. So here we are with Game 1, and we have the Dryad and Cure Best the Sea God, but we do only have 3 lands, so we'll have to draw quite a few more to reach Cure Best the Sea God, but this is definitely not a hand worth mulliganing. It has extremely high potential, and we'll see if we get there. And that's a mana dork right there. That Caryatid can tap for 1 mana, or it can tap for 2 mana if we control a creature with power 4 or greater. So if we make it to 5 mana to get that Nylea's Forerunner onto the battlefield, and our Caryatid is still alive at that point, that means we'll be at 7 mana thanks to the Caryatid. So we might be able to just cheese this one out. We are against blue-white, so we'll want to make sure that our opponent is tapped out when we try to cast Cure Best the Sea God, or at least just really hope they don't have a counter. So I think I'm actually just going to cast Omen of the Hunt for a mountain here rather than play Dryad, because Dryad isn't actually going to give us any more mana here, since we don't have any more lands in our hand, and we definitely want to keep getting higher up the mana chain here, the mana curve, because we want to cast that Nylea's Forerunner. That'll help the Caryatid tap for 2 mana instead of just 1, which will help us hit Cure Best the Sea God very quickly. Putting Dryad on the board doesn't actually give us any more mana unless we have more basic lands in our hand, which we currently don't. Alright, so Omen of the Hunt, going to go ahead and pick up a mountain. In case our Caryatid dies, we want to still have access to red mana. And there's another Nylea's Forerunner, so we're just going to drop one. If they kill it, we've got another to drop. If they don't kill it and we draw a basic land, that'll put us at the 7 mana for Cure Best the Sea God, and that may just seal the game. If not, though, we'll actually have to think about what we want to play, because we have tons of cheaper cards to choose from. Alright. So opponent is definitely trying to race us here. We are 1 mana off from Curabests the Sea God, unfortunately, thanks to them revoking existence on our Nylea's Forerunner. However, them revoking existence on that means that Cura won't get revoke existence, but it gives us an 8/8 Kraken with Hexproof, even if they exile it immediately after, so... Let's see. I could Scry 2 and Fateful End to deal 3 to something. I could also play the Dryad and Fateful End. That's probably the safest play we can do here. Go ahead and get a 2/4 blocker out, and now we can deal 3 to one of their things to really slow down their aggro. Alright, let's see. Let's see if this is allowed. Sick. Alright, and there's a land, which we definitely want to hit, because that means we can cast Curabests the Sea God even without Nylea's Forerunner on the battlefield, giving us 2 mana off Caryatid. However, opponent with 2 cards in hand, we're going to play it safe and try for Forerunner first. And I might even go ahead and just get aggro here, kill off their... It's probably not actually very important to kill one of their things here. Because now we have enough mana to scry 2 off Omen of the Hunt. I'd rather save Warbriar's Blessing in case something legitimately very dangerous shows up. Because now their ground guy can't attack anymore. Triumphant Surge. Alright, well, now it can. I guess we're going to scry right now, because there's no way we're going to block with Caryatid. Don't actually really want either of these right now. But odds are we just draw another land. If I'm just dumping these. I'm going to go ahead and keep the Aureate of Mountains Blaze, because we're hitting that point where both of us are very close to just top decking, and that's kind of the point where this card's at its best. That'll help us get through any mana flood we might hit. Alright. So, I mean, we're pretty sure they didn't have a counter last turn, so unless they just drew it, that might be the time to just go for it. Alright. They did not immediately draw into a counterspell. Probably should have just went for that earlier, but there is a decent amount of counters in the set. There's a 3-mana one that just exiles a creature or enchantment spell. And that's the one I was really scared about. As it stands, though, it looks like Curabests the Sea God is just going to take the game, as that card tends to do. Dreadful Apathy on the Dryad is not going to be enough. The 8/8 alone will finish it off here. Go ahead and take their bird, I guess. God, that straight up just feels so dirty. That was ridiculous. That felt even stronger and dirtier than I thought it would. So there's that. there is showing off the power of Curabests the Sea God. Actually from the side casting Curabests the Sea God this time. Alright, we are back with round 2 here. See if our hand is nearly as good as our last one. Boy. We do have primarily forests in this deck in terms of basics. And if we draw any land whatsoever, we can start discarding cards to the Oread. If we draw no lands, we at least get to put a 1/3 on the board and deal 2 to something, which gives us more time to draw into stuff. I'm actually going to keep this, because we're 1 forest away from the world. And if we only draw a mountain by the time that we hit our 3rd land, we can start using Oread to just start discarding whatever non-land things we're drawing to get us to that forest. Of course, there is also the incredibly unlikely draw, which would be an island, because we've got 1 island in the deck. But if we draw an island as well, we could use the Oread to start discarding the non-land stuff. Luckily, though, we did just immediately draw the forest, so we're definitely good here. I think I'm going to just play the 3/3 here. If I play Omen of the Hunt, I can guarantee that I cast Tectonic Giant next turn, which is pretty strong. I might actually want to do that. I could also just drop Dryad out. You know, I'm going to actually do... Oh, okay, for a second, I thought I messed up. But yeah, all of the Omens have Flash. Just making sure. Alright, there goes my Oread. And then they get to Duress me. Make me reveal my hand, they choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, make me discard it. Okay, so we're just going to Omen of the Hunt. And pick up a basic. Alright, so now we have Tectonic Giant mana. I could Omen of the Forge if I want them to not make us discard it. But I don't think I'm going to do that. That seems like a little bit of a waste of the card, to just do 2 damage to their face. I'd rather just get the Giant out. They do get to get the value of us not being able to use that, but the only way we could have used it was 2 damage to their face and not played the Giant this turn. This card is a very, very powerful card, potentially. If your opponent has the cards for this to hit, which will happen a decent amount of the time. Alright. Nothing from our opponent. Means that we probably get to just get in for an attack here. I'm going to actually use the draw ability and not just dome them for 6, because I don't know what they've got going on there, so I'd like to just play as much stuff as possible, spread out my threats. We're going to make 2 1/1s, so they're going to make some chump blockers here. I'm going to just try to get as much... Alright. Just try to get as much value out of him as possible. That is not a whole bunch of value there, Tectonic Giant, but I'll take it. So there's the island I probably should have just grabbed off of the Omen earlier, but either way, it's here. Go ahead and untap our Giant and play our Dryad. There is a 4-mana Wrath in the set. I'm just gonna let them get us if they drop a Plains into the Wrath. As it stands, they don't have the mana to do it, even if they do have it. Alright, they're going to go ahead and just kill the Giant here. We are definitely going to draw another card off of it. Alter the Pantheon would be our second blue. Done and out of the way. And I mean, that's probably better than a 2/3 trample at this point in the game, because we do not have a 4-power creature to make this bigger. So I think we do just want the Alter. Oh, we actually already... we have the Dryad anyway, but Dryad is going to be a quick target for removal. Oh, we just drew another altar. Alright. Well, we're going to discard that next altar. Let's go like... Oh, it doesn't matter. Everything taps for any color right now. Discard that, draw 2. Ooh, Nihilist Forerunner. We just naturally drew all 3 of all our altars of the Pantheon. I guess one of them wasn't naturally drawn, it was grabbed off Tectonic Giant's ability. But still, we got all 3. I do feel like at this point that taking the creature was the better play there. I totally forgot about Dryad's secondary effect, but there was still an argument for grabbing Altar of the Pantheon just because Dryad is, I think, slightly more likely to die than our 3/3. And if Dryad dies, then we would not have had the mana for Cure Best to Sea God if we drew it. We can cast Renata here, and then we get to start gaining life off of the altars because she is a demigod. Six, 7. And we do have the mana to cast her and an altar. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that. And now whenever we cast our Forerunner, it will be even bigger, because it'll get a +1/+1 counter from her. And our entire field will have Trample thanks to the Forerunner, which means Renata will have Trample, which will be massive. So now we're not even quite as hosed if they have the 4-mana Wrath, because the 4-mana Wrath in this set lets everyone draw a card if they controlled a creature with power 4 or greater. So at least we'll draw a card if they board wipe all of our creatures away. Sun Maiden Pegasus will be able to start giving them life if they don't have anything else playable right now. They can spend 2 mana, give it Vigilance Lifelink, poke us for 2. Looks like that is not the play. They're going to be using their white mana for something here. Triumphant Surge on Renata. Fair enough. I'm going to go ahead and gain the life while I can. Won't be able to gain life once she's gone. So yeah, Altar of the Pantheon has a lot of text there, but it adds to our devotion, so it makes Renata bigger, and it gives us a life whenever we tap it, if we control a god or a demigod, but not any other time. It also gives us life off of legendary enchantments, but there's no... I don't think there's any legendary enchantments that aren't gods in the set. I could be wrong there. I'm starting to think our opponent might just have a lot of cards that require 2 white mana. Because I have no idea what else could be in their hand. They haven't played land in a while. They just have actual cards in their hand. Soul Reaper of Mogus. 3 mana, sack a creature, draw a card. Very good card. If you have the mana up, that allows you to get value. Whenever any of your creatures get destroyed in any way, you can instead just be like, well, I'll sack it before it dies, draw a card off of it. And that's like the least that that card can do. It can certainly do a lot more. Do we just win? That's a draw. Go ahead and get our massive hexproofer in here. Send in the team. They might double block our Forerunner to trade with it, but if they do so, they're taking 5. They're going to double block and trade with our 3/3. Interesting. I would rather kill the thing that's going to have lifelink. Don't give them another chance to gain some life. Alright, so they're at 7. We've got an 8/8 hexproof out, and if they don't deal with the enchantment, we will tap all of their creatures before combat. There's a second white. Is it happening? Do they have the board wipe? That would be one of very few ways to completely deal with my Cure Best the Sea God here. Then the only thing I would get out of it would be stealing one of their permanents on the 3rd mode. And the only permanent left would be their Omen. Actually, that wouldn't even be left, because they could definitely sacrifice it by then. So yeah, that would totally deal with my Cura Beats the Sea God as well as all of my creatures. So that'd be fantastic. But the fact that they haven't cast it by now means that they do not have the board wipe. Ooh, Heliod's Intervention, another very powerful card. But it does not deal with the 8/8 Hexproofer, thankfully. Let's go ahead and give it Trample. And start the party. So our opponent did just 4-for-1 us. So that's pretty good, but not a lot of easy stuff you can do about an 8/8 Hexproof Kraken. Shatter the Sky. Oh, but they have both! Oh my god! Wow! That is... wow. Ooh, that could not have been more of a disaster. Alright, well... the top deck war has begun, and they have 2 omens to scry a total of 4, meaning we're not likely to win the top deck war. Our opponent is at 2 life, and we have a 3 mana, 3 damage to target anything spell. That could certainly win us the game. Our Fateful End, that's what it's called. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm checking out what's left in our deck here, and we're out of everything. There's 8 lands and, like, our weakest creatures. Oh, no. Oh, no. We do have another Thrill of Possibility. Which, in that case, I should hold that land. That is the only thing that we have that would make us want to hold the lands, though. But I definitely should have just kept that land in hand. Just keep 1 land in hand in case we draw Thrill of Possibility to discard it and draw 2. We have a Caryatid, which is horrible draw, does nothing. Warbriar's Blessing, which is horrible draw, does nothing because we don't have any creatures. Fateful End, which would win the game. Iroa's Blessing, which is a horrible draw because we don't have any creatures. And a stack of lands, and our 5 mana 4/5 dork. Oh boy. As bad as this feels right now, I don't necessarily think that we played awfully. Because I think we still would just play the 5/3. So we get in, we trample over for that guaranteed damage. That way, if we ever draw Fateful End, we just win. Yeah, I think playing our 5/3 was definitely the play there. Like, maybe we shouldn't have played the Caryatid. The 2-mana 1/1, because it didn't really add anything to our board. So I think that's probably accurate. Then we may still have a 1/1 out at this point, in which case we could actually put Iroha's Blessing onto that, which would be pretty important. So I think playing our Caryatid was probably wrong, because we did specifically say that they could have the board wipe a long time ago, so we were actively thinking about that. And if we were thinking about that, holding the 1/1 would allow this card to actually be active. Playing the 1/1 would not really do anything. Well, we're super dead. Yeah, that was brutal. Very few things can beat Cure Best's the Sea God, but your opponent 4 for 1ing you and then 3 for 1ing you can certainly do so. Just like, hey, check out this card. It deals with 4 of your cards, and this one deals with 3 of them. Brutal. Alright. I am pretty confident at this point, with how these games have played out, that this red-green build is definitely the coolest thing we could build with our sealed pool, and probably the best. Not gonna give any 100% confirmation there, but probably. So, opponent has a 1/3 that is a good sacrifice outlet. They can eat their creatures to start draining us some life. Which is pretty good, because they can do that whenever we're targeting them with removal and stuff like that. And there are a couple ways to... I think it's just one way. There's a 4-mana red spell that can steal a creature until end of turn. So if they have that comboed with the Lamp Head can kill our creature forever. Do here. Could ramp it to my 5/3. But they're playing red and black, so I'm going to play the little 3/3 first, and maybe it gets some removal out of the way. It probably wouldn't get any really good removal that just like destroys any creature, but if they have something that does 3 damage to something, or gives something -3/-3, the fact that this has exactly 3 toughness might make them more prone to use that. Like that. So we got rid of the Mire's Grasp, which was removal that could have killed Nylea's Forerunner, which is why I liked that play there. It's because it baits out removal that specifically could also hit Forerunner. But I am also pretty sure that would not have baited out a removal spell that could kill anything, like the 4-mana destroy any target creature. Oh my god, this is probably very strong. Timuret Calls the Dead. Put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, then exile a creature or enchantment from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie. Does that twice. So 3 mana, they get 2 2/2 black zombies, and then they gain 2 life and scry 2. Okay. That is pretty good. Not super terrifying, as without any pump spells of their own, I can block those with my 3 toughness creatures, such as Forerunner and Oryad. But that is still pretty powerful. Right. They've got the zombies assembled. And another land might be a little flooded there. A second Myers Grasp will kill my 5/3. Our sealed pool was very light on removal overall. I think our best removal really was in red. Our white did have the one good removal spell, but that was it. And red removal in general is not fantastic. Actually, now that I think about it, our black had good removal, but not a whole lot else. Cura bests the Sea God. That is powerful. We are at enough mana if we untap with all of these still alive. Not sure. I think I am gonna just save the mana here rather than playing another altar. I don't think my Caryatid is gonna die, and that would be the only real reason for casting the altar out instead of holding up Fateful End in case something goes wrong. Or they put something really good on the field or something like that. We might even want to just kill a zombie. But I don't think so. Oh, they're just going to pass. Okay. Well, let's best the Sea God. We know they're not going to have a counter spell, but they could definitely have something that destroys an enchantment. But at the very least, we're getting an 8/8 Kraken here. The only thing I'm particularly worried about coming from black, red, or green would be some Death Touchers. There are 1 mana 1/1 Death Touchers in green, and a 4 mana 3/3 Death Toucher in black. But they would have to destroy both the Saga and play a Death Toucher for that to be an answer. Because if they don't destroy the Saga, we are going to tap their whole field for 2 turns. Alright, kill off the Caryatid, draw a card thanks to Citizen Champion. So, Fateful End will not be able to kill Champion. It has 4 toughness now. And just a land from opponent means we are in a very, very good place here. Go ahead and play our Dryad, and now I'm going to hold up this 3 mana. Again, not going to play the Altar or the Basic, because I can discard this Basic to draw a card. So that's why I'm not playing the Basic, and I'm not playing the Altar, because that allows me to save mana to discard the Basic and draw, or Fateful End, a last-minute blocker. I can also just steal the last-minute blocker, so, I mean, that's just brutal. If they don't play any blocker at all, we'll just Fateful End their face. Let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11? Yeah, so we have to Fateful End targeting them to kill them next turn. So I think we just Fateful End targeting them at the end step, and then gain control of whatever they play as a blocker. Which looks to be a Soul Reaper of Mogus. Problem is they can gain a bunch of life by sacrificing their dudes. So maybe we don't go, like, all in here. Yeah, so whatever we try to steal, they can just sacrifice. 'Cause, yeah, they have 3 different sacrifice outlets. We're actually not going to be able to steal anything. I can get them to kill their champion, though. Alright, so we know that burning them in the face isn't going to work, because they gain life off Lampad. So let's make them sacrifice the Soul Reaper, and then off of the steal effect, we can make them sacrifice the Citizen Champion. and make their field drastically worse. Alright. I am going to draw discard right now. Or discard draw, whatever order. Cool. Another blocker. I think that means I want to just attack with everybody. So, they're not actually very close to dead here, thanks to them being a sacrifice deck. Because they can just chump block our 8/8 straight up every turn and drain us for 1 life every time they do it. So they're going to be gaining life while they're chump blocking. Luckily though, this Oriad is going to be putting in major work, getting us towards something to break us through here. Another Nylea's Forerunner would do it, for sure. I'm gonna draw 2 this time. There it is, alright. Just gonna send the 8/8 in here. We might have the game next turn if they don't have a removal spell. Alright, so they block with the Lamp Pad because the abilities are redundant. So they're just going to block with their weakest power and toughness creature. They only need 1 Lamp Pad out. Opponent's scrying 2. 1 to the top, 1 to the bottom. Ooh. That is big boy, but I don't think he's big enough. Second on a creature or enchantment, give him +1/+1 menace till end turn. They have to sack 4 things to trade with the Sea God. So, oh boy. That's a good one right there. That is a very good one. Alright. Let's see if this works. They might not actually sacrifice him if we target him with this, because they want to deal the damage to our Kraken. Actually, they probably will. Now that I forgot that it gives 2 more toughness. Since it gives 2 more toughness, they will not be able to kill the Kraken on blocks here. Alright, so we do that, and then we drop the thing that gives all our stuff trample and send the team in. Should be lethal. Alright, it is indeed. There's the scoop from opponent. I was legitimately terrified that we were about to lose after dropping arguably the best card of the set again. That would have been hilarious, though. That would have been justice. Alright, welcome back to round 3 of our green-red splashing Kiora Best the Sea God deck. This hand is pretty awkward. If we draw any land at all, we're good, because then we'll have Altar of the Pantheon, but it is still quite a slow start. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this one, actually. This is a lot better. I'm going to keep this one, actually get rid of the Altar of the Pantheon. We've got a turn 2 Aureate of Mountain's Blaze, turn 3 Omen of the Hunt to pick up an island, or a mountain if we happen to draw our double red requiring card. And Iroha's Blessing on turn 4. I could now choose to Thrill of Possibility instead here, discarding the Forest, but that seems a little bit risky. We definitely want to hit lands for a little bit here. We're trying to get to 5 mana. Alright, good. Good. Actually, a very good draw, because now we can grab our island off of Omen the Hunt and not be worried at all about any mana costs, because our double red and double green is accounted for. Verika's Spawn. Kinda scary. That's actually going to start bashing me in the face. I don't particularly want to kill it. They have to exile. They only have to exile 3 cards to bring that thing back. As a like 5/6, so that's pretty scary. Another Forerunner. I think I'm gonna just drop a Forerunner. If I end up killing the Verika's Spawn, it'll be just like if they don't play any other dudes. Mire's Grasp, pretty bad for us. But yeah, it's... Escape cards are so tough, because it's like... Until I had this 4/5 out, like if I was just going to keep casting 5/3s, then that's actually a big problem on the board, but it's also a bigger problem in the grave. He's got a 5/6 on board. Would be difficult right now. Plus, it would make me sacrifice my Orietta. Ooh, we're dead. We're dead. Oh boy. Oh, hey, Ashiok. Yeah. Yeah, Ashiok's a pretty classic Planeswalker, alongside... he's about on par with the classic Planeswalker power level of, like, if you can't deal with the Planeswalker quickly, it's just going to accumulate too much advantage to survive through. And we can't deal with it permanently, because, I mean, look at all this stuff they have in terms of blockers, and they get another just 2/3 blocker all the time. I suppose I can Iroa's Blessing, kill Verika's Spawn. Send in for 5, but then they just chump block with the 2/3 and make another 2/3. And they just keep making 2/3s and chump blocking. This is really bad. I think I have to, like, give Trample? If I attack right now, they can block with Verika's Spawn and 2/3 and just kill my dude. So attacks are just awful. Oh boy. Like I have to set up Trample and then clear out enough dudes to get in there.
Lurks among us.
Oh boy. One, two, three, four. They would have to block this with all 3 of these to kill it. They have to block this with 2 to kill it. They still have to block it with only 2 to kill it if I put this on there, so I'm going to put it on here. Okay. So we get to keep Trample on all our dudes. I'm 99% certain now that we just lose. Because all of our only attempt at a crackback has been completely stifled. So the -7 is that they get to cast our exiled stuff. So right now they could just -7 and cast this dude. I mean, their field is already, like, a lot more massive than ours. So I don't think they're -7 just for one dude right now. Yeah, they just keep playing 2/3s. Yeah, this is insane. And we just have 0 good blocks for Farrakhan's spawn ever, because it just comes back from the grave. And all we have are things that trade for it. That's another mana guy. Yeah, we're just drawing a bunch of mana. We got absolutely demolished by Ashiok there. Yeah, opponent definitely got the very good setup there. A 2/3 into a 3/4 into Ashiok, who makes another 2/3. So in order to deal with their Planeswalker, we would have to somehow break through 2 2/3s and a 3/4. And then when we made attempts and got somewhat close, they did have the removal spells to answer them. So that was a very, very strong deck from our opponent. Very well played. But it does feel bad. It does not often feel great to lose. Alright, we're going to have a very, very good turn 3 play here. We're just going to drop our Tectonic Giant, say what up, and get swinging. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hey, I actually am fine with that. That means we get at least 2 triggers out of him. I was worried that they were just going to kill him entirely immediately. So we're going to play Entrancing Lyre, because if we do not cast it, then it'll be gone forever. So yeah, now whenever we want to draw a card out of our top 2, we can just attack with him and let him die. Alright, end of turn, we'll Thrill of Possibility, discard this land, draw a couple cards. Cool, we got our island. I think I'd like to play Renata before I play any more creatures here. Just that way all of our creatures are a little bit bigger. Heliod's Pilgrim. Well, with the Mire's Grasp having been played already, it's very likely they have some good removal auras. Another Mire's Grasp? There goes Renata. Coming in for 6. Not gonna chump here. Alright. Let's see what we can do here. I think what I want to do is drop Scophos. Keep their Pilgrim tapped. And draw some cards. Altar or another Caryatid. Well, we do have a ton of fixing / ramp cards in this deck. Underworld Charger. Can't block, but it can come back from the grave as super duper big. I'm gonna keep that tapped because I'm probably playing both these creatures here. And I am indeed. So they have 2 blockers. They're both 3/3s. In order to kill them with Scophos War Leader, I'd need to sacrifice 2 creatures / enchantments. So I could sacrifice my Caryatid and my Tectonic Giant. Kill both their creatures. I think that's worth it. Unfortunately, the way that it works is Mire's Grasp, even though it's on our creature, is still our opponent's permanent, so we can't sacrifice the Mire's Grasp. That would be fantastic, though. Rage Scarred Berserker. Give somebody +1 and indestructible this turn to guarantee a nice swing. Alright, we have a boatload of mana, so I think I'm just gonna chump block with the Caryatid. We will untap that as well for the same reason. Ooh, Warbearer's Blessing is pretty good here. I think we go keep your biggest guy tapped. Oops. And then kill Renata. And now we are off to the races. They block Tectonic Giant to take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Crack back for... They crack back pretty hard here. I think we keep the Tower Scout back, maybe? Yeah. Let's keep Tower Scout back. That keeps Heliod's Pilgrim from attacking well. We're probably just going to take the 4 from the Underworld Charger. But now they probably just attack with Charger. Yeah. Cool. Nexus Wardens, 1 for each. They gain life when they play enchantments. So let us hope they don't do that. Ooh, Fateful End. That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I think we get rid of 1 blocker right now. Get as much damage through as possible. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Double block there. We're definitely going to kill the one we can kill. Down to 6 for our opponent. Voracious. Typhon, definitely a good draw. They needed a blocker or they were dead. They're actually still dead, because we can untap this and tap their dude. This card is good. This liar is good. I didn't know how I felt about it at first, but this liar is good. Alright. Wow. That was getting to a pretty scary back and forth there. Managed to sneak it out in the end with that liar. Yeah, definitely. The Entrancing Liar, it kind of first got put in the deck because I was like, well, this could go in there. We can try that out. That can lock down a dude. It's whatever. But that card is very much growing on me. It's definitely similar to an Icy Manipulator kind of effect, and that kind of effect can be really strong. Even if it does cost a lot more than Icy Manipulator in some spots. But if you're in a stalemate where they just have like one big thing, and it's repeatedly the same big thing, it's not that much more than Icy Manipulator, it's just that you're paying, 5 up front instead of 1 every turn for a bunch of turns. But 5 up front is a much heftier cost than 1 mana repeatedly. Oh boy. Opponent is probably about to start doing some great things. Eutropia's a fantastic card. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, they get to put a +1/+1 counter on one of their creatures and give it flying until end of turn. And it's very easy to end up in a deck with primarily just enchantment creatures, so that'll just be like every time they play a creature. Also, +1/+1 counter and flying. So, very, very high potential to get kind of destroyed here. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Hylax Tower Scout, because next turn we can play Renata. I don't actually need to ramp into anything here, I would rather get Renata out. And see, there we go with the enchantment creature immediately after Eutropia. Pretty good. Flummoxed Cyclops, which comes in with a counter thanks to Renata, and Loathsome Chimera, which comes in with a counter thanks to Renata. Oh my god, this curve. Oh boy. And they've hit 6 Green Devotion, which means they'll trade for both of our creatures if we block. Things are not looking great. That was a strong curve. They have some hefty creatures out. They've dumped their entire hand onto the field at this point. What is the best I can really do here? I'm just blocking things, I think. I think we just play our big old Forerunner. We can play Forerunner, we can play Caryatid and Stampede Runner. Caryatid puts Renata to 4 power, so she can block their Renata well. And Stampede Rider can block their Chimera well. And then we're just worried about the Cyclops he's going to get in that turn. That's actually pretty good blocks. Oh yeah, our own Renata also puts a counter on our guys. Forgot about that. Got really scared and was too busy thinking about their Renata. Alright, so if they didn't just draw like an enchantment, we actually have some pretty good blocks. So we're not just dead. If this is an enchantment, though, they're about to have a very brutal turn. Hydra's growth. Oh boy. Oh boy. So Hydra's growth doubles the amount of +1/+1 encounters on the enchanted creature during their upkeep. It also puts a counter onto it when it comes into play. So that is going to be a counter onto Cyclops, making it a 6/6, counter onto it, making it a 7/7, and flying, and I'm going to take half my life. We're sending the Chimera in as well. Sure. Oh, you're sending everybody in. Or not. Alright, I am actually wanting to keep this Caryatid around to cast our Tectonic Giant. So we're going to trade off with our 3/3. Well, we drew our mountain for the Tectonic Giant, so we could have traded off with Caryatid. I think I'd rather play the mountain than throw a possibility away. Because now we can save Caryatid as a blocker. They get another enchantment. That's gotta be a no. Because if they got an enchantment, it would be out already. That would be an immediate win. Alright. Oh boy. Oh lord. Let's do that, I guess. Well, we're not nearly big enough for Wolfbriar to be an answer to anything. Well, that's Warbriar, not Wolfbriar. So let's... well... actually discard this. Because, like, at least we get to kill, like, Eutropia with it. Well, we've got enough mana for both of these. We're gonna have to chump block with, like, our Tectonic Giant. Which is not a place you really want to be. Fight that. Shoot that. Scry that away. And you know what? We need to hit good cards. Let's send that in and chump block with Renata. Giant is a little more valuable than Renata here because it's letting us see more cards and potentially draw a solution to this madness. Owner of the Hunt is not an answer. If I don't attack, I can just play Oread. Chump block with Oread. And then block the 5/2 with the 4/7. So I suppose we do that. just the Cyclops it is. I'm trying to decide if it's better to... I think it's better to just discard this. Because if we play it, we're going to get a basic land out of our deck right now. And then we can scry 2 later. But if we just discard it right now, the worst that we can do is get a basic land out of our deck right now. And the best is, like, also drawn to something immediately? I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and discard it. Just wait, we're gonna draw Kiora Best the Sea God. Omen of the Forge is not terrible. So do we just send in with Tectonic Giant? Because chump blocking with Tectonic Giant isn't gonna be... That's not gonna be a way that we win. Like, yeah, I think we straight up have to hit a creature here. Okay, well, not a creature. So no blockers. I don't even know what our plan was there. I guess our plan was to just endlessly play chump blockers and slowly whittle them away with our 4 damage guy. If we hit him in the face 4 more times, we could get there, but that would be very, very difficult. We would have to consistently be hitting creatures to cast off of Tectonic Giant's ability plus the Scry. And if we ever did hit multiple chump blockers in a row, we would have the advantage of being able to then start doing the extra 3 damage with Tectonic Giant's attacks instead of just repeatedly searching for more chumpers. But I think that was like our only hope there, because even Kiora Best the Sea God, we only had the 1 island because all of our mana producing stuff died. And a lot of it got scried to the bottom because we were going to be dead if we just sat there drawing mana fixing. So there was my very first sealed for Theros Beyond Death outside of the pre event thing. Yeah, I mean 3 and 3, that's exact average. That is pretty much me as a Magic player. Very, very average. Well, thank you all very much for watching. Let's go ahead and pop open these packs if anybody's interested in seeing the new goodies. Nothing crazy in the commons, but we did get a Banishing Light, which is good. And a Deer Kraken, one of the best blue cards in Limited, similar to Kiora Best's the Sea God as one of the best blue cards in Limited. This one is a really good early drop, 3 mana for a 2/3, and then whenever you draw a card, you can pay 1 to put a ++1 counter on this and create a 1 blue tentacle token. Really, really strong. Basically, every turn you get to pay 1 mana to make it +1/+1 and get a little chump blocker alongside it. And that's like the minimum you could do. Like, you draw at least 1 card a turn, and if you have any bonus draw, you can do crazy things. Like if you have the Butcher of Mogus, or whatever it's called, the 1 black and 2 for a 2/3 that allows you to spend that same cost to sacrifice a creature and draw a card. You could just go insane with this thing, because then you can start sacrificing the tentacles to draw more cards, to make more tentacles, to put more counters on the Kraken. Just very, very good card. Pack 2. We've got nothing I'm particularly interested in, common or uncommon wise, but a fun Azorius rare. 6 mana for a 3/5 flying lifelink. Whenever you draw a card, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn, and whenever it attacks, draw a card. You can also discard a card to give it hexproof until end of turn and tap it. So while it technically is a 3/5 flying lifelink, during your turn, basically on attacks, you're going to draw a card, then it's a 4/5 flying lifelink, and then when it attacks, you're going to draw another card, making it a 5/5 flying lifelink, and it has the ability to give itself hexproof to save itself from your opponent's removal spells. So a very, very deceptively powerful card. At first, you're like, oh, 3/5, that's kind of small for a 6 mana card, but It's actually deceptively large with its +1 abilities. Nothing super exciting, commons and uncommons wise. That's all just limited stuff. But our final rare. Ooh, all right, mythic rare elder giant Croxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. So this is one of the Titans, and the way that all of the Titans work is that when they enter the battlefield, you sacrifice them unless they escaped, and they have a powerful enter the battlefield and attack abilities. So the idea is you can play this card for 1 black and 1 red from your hand in order to get the enter the battlefield effect, which is each opponent discards a card, then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card loses 3 life. So each opponent discards a card, and if they discarded a land, they lose 3. That's what you get for a black and a red. Then later, for 2 black, 2 red, and exile 5 other cards from your graveyard, you bring this back from your grave to the battlefield as a 6/6. It stays on the battlefield. You get that enter the battlefield effect again, and you get that discard effect again every time it attacks. So very, very cool design, very powerful card. All of the Titans are super cool. I think the best one, the one almost everyone agrees is the best one and the most exciting one, is the green and blue one. It's 1 and a green and a blue, and its enter the battlefield / attack effect is that you get to draw a card and play an additional land. So it's like Growth Spasm from Ravnica Allegiance, except that it's repeatable after you escape it from your grave. And when you escape that one, it's a 6/6 as well. So all of the Titans, very, very cool. And very powerful. So, once again, thank you all so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I am streaming live on Twitch every day. As soon as you see these videos, if you see a video get uploaded and it says, like, uploaded 1 hour ago or something, that means I'll be live on Twitch right now, because I'm going to be uploading video every Friday and Saturday, as well as doing a live stream on Twitch every Friday and Saturday shortly afterward. My live streams are going to be chill Magic the Gathering games, a little bit different from my videos, because I'm just going to be relaxed about it more. Lots of just brawl with viewers and casual stuff. Not a lot of like try-hard limited. And maybe just some regular video games over on the Twitch channel as well. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, I will see you, at the very least, in the next video.